Welcome everybody to the latest Wellington community event. Today we have our webinar on AI and PMO, but looking at a real world test. With me today, I have my colleague Baz Kinder. Do you want to say hi, Baz?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Baz Kinder. I'm one of the Microsoft specialists here at Wellington and commercial director as well. My background in PMO stretches back to 2005, and I've been playing with Microsoft solutions around the project management space now since around 2009. So I'll be talking to you guys about what's new with Microsoft Project, or Planner as it's going to be called, and I'll be showcasing some of the AI capability, but you also get access to via Copilot. Thanks, Emma.
Perfect. Thanks, Baz. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Emma Pemberton. I'm the Director of Consulting Services at Wellington. And today we have 30 minutes to explore artificial intelligence, but not really artificial intelligence in the sense of kind of the holistic, quite scary, quite overwhelming, and what it's going to do to transform our world, but looking at a real world test, which was completed by Welsh Water, which is a water authority here in the UK, where I am based. And we're going to learn some of the key lessons, other than how they went through the test, learn the lessons that they learned along the way. We're going to identify some of the tips for success as some of the key things that they found that they felt if you're starting this from scratch, then this is a good chance for you to be successful, to learn from how they did theirs. And then Baz is going to show us how Microsoft can support your PMO with some AI. I'm going to switch my camera off just for the content and the video, and then I'll pop it back on. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. We'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end. Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, before we even start, we need to talk about what is AI. So in the broadest sense of the term, we talk about AI as intelligence that's exhibited by machines. And in particular, in our project management world, we're looking at computer systems. Now, we know that the whole thing is if you're not using AI, you're already out of touch and out of date. But we also know that when AI gets talked about, like I said earlier, it's very holistic. It's all very much going to transform the world. And what we need to do is figure out, how do I, as a team, as a PMO, as an individual, actually work with this in a real world, assuming that it isn't going to take my job tomorrow or as soon as I turn it on. So what we do need to use AI to find ways to optimize the things we already do. And there are three key things, I think, or most commonly talked about AI tools. So one is Microsoft Copilot. Baz is going to be talking a little bit about that, which is about experiencing artificial intelligence within the Microsoft apps that we're all already very familiar with. You've probably already heard of ChatGPT. It's an AI-powered conversational assistant that is available. And this is one of the things that, from a Welsh Water perspective, that they started to work with as well. And then Lupin, which is all about calendars and meeting applications. So making sure that how we book meetings, how we engage with our peers and our senior people, and anybody that's interested in project management kind of comes into the world of PMO. So you might be familiar with those three. There are many, many more tools out there, but it's all then about taking that real world example. And that example that we're going to use today is Microsoft Copilot. So the real world test was started in September 2023 when Welsh Water decided to turn on Microsoft Copilot and do a proper test on how to use it. So they conducted a three-phase project to evaluate the business value with a view to creating a business case for the wider business, really kind of nailing down what should we as an organization be using AI for, what should we not be using AI for. They had a total of 286 users, and they found that there was productivity improvements, with some use cases going right up to 17, nearly 18% in terms of efficiency within the day job. The PMO team were involved. They governed and they assured the project, and they were part of that user group. So they were able to look at their PMO critically and then look at the tooling and decide, how can we use this to enhance the services our PMO offers? They used a lifecycle to do this test. So they looked first of all at testing and security. And this is a really important step that we have to be able to answer, is how are we going to actually test that this is the right thing for us? What are the security considerations that we need to consider before we even start switching this thing on? They then did a proof of concept within a much smaller user group so that they could kind of just get to grips with the usability of the product. Then they did a much wider pilot, and they're now in this kind of controlled adoption. So their business case very much said, this is a tool that can help us. This is what we have found. And the 4 key messages that they talked about in terms of the 4 pillars of use from an AI perspective for them, and your world will be different, is first of all time saving. So really looking at generating brand new content. So they, for example, if we have a PMO hub, which is the truth of everything going on with project management, we will be wanting dynamic content in there, such as articles, videos, different kind of slide decks, processes, and areas that people can go and get help and support with their projects. So today, most of us would have to sit down with a blank sheet of paper and we would need to start generating all of that. But one of the things that they found is the time saving of asking that whole AI platform to say, start me off with an article about this. Now, if we take that down to the day-to-day work of a PMO, the summarizing of meetings, meeting minutes, saving valuable time so people aren't having to write up actions and things like that, getting all of that out was a significant element or pillar for them to use AI, was around the time saving or the time that it takes because of the transcripts from meetings, the actions, the summaries that they could quite easily then tweak and send out, as well as this creation of content from scratch. Because usually, as you will know, getting started with brand new content is actually the hardest bit. Once we start and we're on a roll, that's great. So really kind of short-circuiting that initial development piece. The second pillar for their AI use, as they saw it, was assisted decision making. So looking at having everything online in one or a few places that can be accessed by Microsoft Copilot, and using that organizational content to request information and data. That allowed them to inform their reporting and the decisions that have been made over the last year around projects, programs, and portfolios. So really kind of helping the senior leaders to make an informed choice when they're asked to make a decision. Not making the decisions, but definitely using that to make an informed decision. Then the other thing that they found was around their processes. So really kind of streamlining their communication pathways, their artifact creation, making processes more efficient. So actually asking, how do we make this process better? How do we make this more efficient? How can I take these steps out of this particular process? How can I communicate this better? How can I, what's the quickest way to create something new? So it actually provided that almost in some cases 17% efficiency gain from the team that were involved in the global user group. And then the last one, they talked about accessibility support. So writing content from scratch, gaining insights during meetings, and that accessibility piece is, have we created this in a way that everybody will be able to understand it? What's the readability of all of this? In terms of individuals writing content, if they're not particularly confident at that yet, it's maybe part of their development pathway, giving them the starter for 10. So looking at these 4 pillars of it saved them time, it helped them make decisions, it helped them make their processes more efficient, and it provided support for the people that needed it in terms of creating content. What's interesting about this is that it isn't saying this is going to remove the role of a project manager or remove the role of a PMO, which is a lot of the messaging that we get from lots and lots of articles and content that's out there. So the key message, I guess we could say, from these 4 pillars is rather than it replacing your role, what it does is it changes your role. And how they put it is it puts you in the editor's seat. So rather than the seat of I have to create and sanity check and do everything myself, it puts us in this editor space where it gives us a starter for 10, and then we are able to use that time to tweak, refine, and make it clear that we're focusing on the engagement piece rather than doing everything from scratch and having to do the quality check-in ourselves. In terms of their process and what they actually went through, some hints and tips from them. Existing security policies and rules for sharing data. This is really, really important. We need to make sure that if we do switch this kind of technology on, that we are not breaking any IT policies, any security policies, because it does need access. So as much as we don't necessarily want everything to be open in some organizations, that's one of the key principles of this, is everything needs to be centralized. It needs to be put in a specific place so that Copilot can interrogate it. So we need to make sure that our security policies are up to date and our sharing policies are also up to date. We also need to consider the confidentiality of some projects and programs. Now, we are at Wellington a firm believer that everything should be kind of open source within the organization. However, in your case, there might be some projects and programs that require a level of confidentiality. Now, we've always had this conversation with our technology clients, which is like, if it's that confidential, maybe it shouldn't be there. Or we need to rethink our security policies so that certain things don't pop out, that Copilot can't interrogate. So you need to really think closely around what is the appropriate way for me to deal with. Should this just not be anywhere? If it is that secret, then maybe it shouldn't be. But if there are ways that we can tweak our security policies, then maybe that is kind of a middle ground. So those permission levels are going to be really, really important. The next thing that they talked about is don't assume that everybody understands how Copilot or whatever tool works. We need to educate the organization, and that's not just the immediate user group, it's everybody. We need to not only educate them in how to use it, but we also need to teach them how not to use it, what appropriate jobs we should be using AI for, what we shouldn't be using AI for. We've talked already about this puts us in the editor seat. We shouldn't be trusting it to make our decisions for us. It should inform us, but we still need that human perspective. And we need an organizational AI strategy. I know this sounds really heady and a big piece of work, but if we're going to start switching this on, we need to be able to talk to this as an organizational discipline effectively. And thinking about that organizational AI strategy is around the skills erosion that comes with it. It's a little bit like going from a manual car to an automatic car. If you drive an automatic car for long enough, you kind of lose some of the skills of driving a manual car. And AI will do the very similar thing. Does it become the next calculator where we can't, lots of people can't do anything without having a calculator or an Excel spreadsheet nowadays, because we lose those skills as we adopt brand new technology. So thinking about how, from a strategy perspective, are we going to deal with the skills erosion? Really, for them, they talked about understanding the real question that they're trying to answer with artificial intelligence. And the question can't be, what's the next shiny thing that we want to implement? We need to be looking at our organization, looking at the way that we make decisions, the way that we store our data, to really understand whether and how artificial intelligence is going to help us. There are some key principles. Everything has to be kind of stored together. Everything has to be stored in a way that we can interrogate it. Tags and keywords are going to be really important. So we need to make sure that we're answering the right question when we're thinking about this. And then lastly, identifying the right group of people who can actually test this in a world that is going to be what we would say a real world example. So like the PMO at Welsh Water, who were able to remain impartial with their findings to create that business case for that wider organization. So really making sure that we've got the right people who are going to critically look at how do we do this? What can it be used for? And just like our projects and programs, that what's out of scope is on some levels more important than what's in the scope of AI. So we need to be able to talk to that and then educate the organization. With that, I'm going to hand over to Baz, who's going to just take you through how Microsoft can support you. So those of you who are in the Microsoft Cloud, you probably have already seen the Copilot logo. You might have already seen some of it working, asking you questions. Do you want to summarize this? But Baz will give you a very quick view of how this can work, and then we'll come back and we'll do some Q&A. Thanks, Baz.
Thanks, Emma. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be talking about Microsoft Project and how the solution is evolving. I'll be talking through the background to Microsoft Project, which no doubt, if you're a project manager, if you're working in PMO, then you've absolutely encountered Microsoft Project. Now, I'm not going to provide a detailed overview of a background, but the solution itself has been around since approximately 1984. And in recent years, it's been getting a little bit confusing because if you go to Microsoft 365, you'll see that there's a range of apps with a certain amount of overlap. So you've got Microsoft Project for the web, you've also got Microsoft Planner, and I'm not even talking about Project Desktop or Project Online. Project Online itself is now almost perceived as a bit of a legacy solution, superseded by Microsoft Project for the web. But then if we look at Project for the web and we look at Planner, again, there's a lot of overlap in terms of UI. So what Microsoft are doing to some extent is consolidating. So in the coming months, in fact, even now in some instances, Project for the web has become Planner. And pretty soon we'll have Planner for the web becoming available. And I guess the big thing with Planner for the web is the fact that it does also bring about with it Copilot integration, which is something that I'll be demonstrating shortly. And for those of you that don't really understand how Project for the Web or Planner for the Web kind of fits in with a Microsoft ecosystem, Project for the Web is essentially the modern day version of Project Desktop. It's entirely browser based. And unlike previous solutions that were all singing and dancing out of the box, that were quite powerful and needed a bit of configuration to get going, Project for the web is more or less supplied like a bit of a Lego set. So Microsoft are giving you the scheduling capability, but then they are relying on organizations such as us, we're a Microsoft Gold partner, to build solutions using the wider Microsoft Power Platform to give PMOs the type of solution that they themselves would want to use. So one of the challenges with AI is getting all of your data into a consistent format whereby everything is captured in a uniform way, in a repeatable way, so that data is not really disjointed and it's all captured in one central location. So that's exactly what we provide with a combination of Microsoft Project for the web and the Accelerator Plus Power App solution that extends it ready for the PMO. So I'm not going to provide a deep dive demo of the Accelerator Plus, but I am going to showcase one or two screens. So this is the home page. Hopefully quite self-explanatory. It's providing some navigation tiles. It's providing some end user specific metrics. High level KPIs around the portfolio are also evident. But if I switch now to the project view, this gives me a consolidated list of all of my projects that I have within the system. And from here, of course, I can also go in and select from other global views like my active projects. So again, there's a wide range of detail that we're capturing within the Accelerator Plus, a whole heap of options and tabs available, as you can see there. Again, I'm not focused on that today. All I wanted to demonstrate with the Accelerator Plus is the fact that we are bringing together all of our data into one centralized repository. Because it's captured in a uniform, consistent way, AI can go and read and decipher this information. So to illustrate the next point, I'm going to go into the risk log, and this is a collection of risks that I've collected for this individual project. And if I drill down into one of these items that's already been logged, you'll see that again, we're capturing a fair amount of detail. So general information along the top, some scoring here in the middle part of the screen. Then we are also looking to capture risk response, of which one of the items is a mitigation plan. Do we have one? In this example, we don't. Now, that was a risk log looking at a specific project, but if I go to this risk log over here, this is now all risks across the entire portfolio. But what I'm going to do at this point is open up Copilot. So you can see the Copilot icon there, which I've now opened up. So now what I can do is ask questions about the data that's held within the environment. The kind of questions that otherwise would require some level of interrogation of the data. I'd have to go in and do a bit of a deep dive into each and every risk to understand, has that data been captured, or I might have to produce specific views that include specific columns. But what I'm going to do is go in, ask a question. So I'm going to ask it to show me a list of risks without a mitigation plan. Ooh, no spelling mistakes. Should give myself a round of applause. So I'm going to fire that away, or fire that off, I should have said. So it's working on it. And in the background, it's now interrogating all of the data, not only within the risk log, but across the entire environment. And it's come back to say that, look, I've got 7 risks without a mitigation plan. And it's also highlighted some of the notable examples. So there's a list down there, but I can also go and show them all on a single page. Another question that might come up from a PMO perspective might be assurance related. And being in a PMO, you want to understand, well, how recently were things updated? And in particular, you want to know who are the project managers on your naughty list that have not been updating things when perhaps they should have been doing that. So I'm going to ask it to show me a list of projects that have not been updated in the last, let's go for 10 days. Okay, let's fire this away. And again, it's going to produce a list of projects that have not been updated recently. And as soon as that pops up, there we go. So look, there's more than 30 projects that have not been updated. And again, it does provide some specific examples within this paragraph. There's a brief list displayed within the list that's popped up, but I can also go and show all of those on a single page. And from here, again, I could create bespoke views whereby I'm also seeing the names of the project managers that I need to go and chase with a big stick. Okay, so this was Copilot within the context of the Accelerator Plus Power App that extends Project for the Web and Planner for the Web. At the moment, we can quiz the data that's within the environment. We can't yet get it to perform actions. In fact, that's a lie. We can, but there are some restrictions around it. Emma, I know you're about to come back in, but I am going to showcase one other thing. So I'm now jumping into the brand new Planner experience. So this is not, just to be clear, it's not the free version of Planner that you get with Microsoft 365. This is the premium variant that gives you additional capability, which in fact I'll demonstrate now. So I'll go into an existing project, commercial construction. And when this opens up, you'll see that I've got a grid view of my tasks. I can also go in view a board view, a timeline view. If I scroll to the right point, there we go. Again, a lot of data, but what I'm going to do is go into my plans and create a brand new plan. And it's a premium plan that we're going to create. So I'll call this one demo project. What is it? The 21st of November. I'm going to create this. And the reason that I'm creating this now is because we will end up with initially a blank schedule, as you see there. But again, I'm going to open up Copilot and I'm going to ask Copilot to build me a plan. Emma, we'll get a bit interactive. This is not pre-planned, by the way. Emma, do you want to give me a suggested project for Planner to build? It could be anything.
Let's say we want to organise a work party, Christmas party. That's quite soon, isn't it? Organise a Christmas party.
Okay, I have not spelt anything correctly. Okay, that'll do. That's how you spell Christmas, is it? Okay, so build me a plan to organise a Christmas party. Off we go. And by the way, I've typed in questions like build me a space rocket, build me a this, that, and the other.
A bit more advanced than mine.
A bit more advanced than what Emma suggested here, but you can see that it's building the outline plan. And once it's done that, look, it's going to start populating this into an actual schedule. And in order to build this up, I've had to do nothing apart from ask it to build me a plan. So there's a quick view of AI in action, and this also splits across the grid view. We can also view the same project plan through the context of a board and a timeline as well, although nothing's really been scheduled, so nothing visible so far. But guys, I hope that gave you a good insight to what AI looks like. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand back to Emma. One thing that you might have come across if you've attended some of the Microsoft Ignite events this week is that Microsoft are also now bringing out or launching a project manager agent. That's all I'll say on that topic. That discussion for another day. But Emma, the floor is yours again.
Thank you. So that's a really good example of allowing our project managers to create their own plans. We're very used to using maybe Microsoft Project. We have a template, you copy paste it, etc. That's a really good example of AI putting us in the editor seat. So we don't just take that for this is the golden plan, because there's going to be things that it can't consider. And the article that you're going to get will talk to you about some of the things that AI kind of missed from our last conversation with Welsh Water. So you'll be able to see that AI is still learning. It is about putting us in the editor seat so that we can make sure that we're using it for the right reasons. We're not trying to get it to make all the decisions just yet. We're not quite at the Skynet point. It is still learning, and it will only learn from us. Hence why it's so important to think about that, sharing those security elements of, do you want your information to go outside so that ChatGPT can interrogate it, or does it need to be inside? But we're out of time, and we're good project managers, so we need to be on time. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining. The video for this and the article will be shared with you, as well as the slides. And do get in touch with myself or Baz if you need or want any more information. Baz, final words?
No, that was it really. Thank you to everyone that took the time out of their busy diaries to join us today. I have popped the link to the Accelerator Plus into the chat window. Yeah, if you've got any questions, please drop us a note. We'd be happy to have offline conversations as appropriate. But guys, have a good day ahead.
See you at the next one. Thanks, guys.